Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. Good to be with you. I'm Don Hudson. We know that the governor officially asked for and declared a special session here a few days ago focusing on public safety. We've been hearing the focus will not be on guns, which everyone has been talking about. So what will the debate look like? What will they be talking about? Our state capitol reporter Chris O'Brien has that story.
Hail Mary firearms proposal in the waning days of session. Republicans, particularly in the House, pretty much immediately shot it down.
I don't see the will of the Senate or the House before we close out tomorrow to be able to get their minds around a 15-page bill.
Lee coined it an enhanced order of protection, which is essentially a modified red flag law to separate weapons from dangerous people.
The General Assembly will ultimately decide which one of those pass, but I feel confident because of the engagement and the work and the efforts, I feel confident that we will have a substantive legislation brought forth and that will make Tennessee a safer place as a result of that.
Since session, that rejection has only grown fiercer. Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton says you may see some gun reform, but not the way you may be thinking.
Right now, criminals who are felons cannot own a weapon, but they can have as much ammunition in their house as they so choose. And so for a felon to own ammunition, you might see us go that route.
In terms of the governor's proposal, nothing has changed.
As far as the enhanced orders of protection, red flag laws, yeah, you're not going to see us go down that road.
Moreover, the Tennessee Firearms Association, which has donated to more than 20 Republicans in the legislature, has been pushing a red flag down campaign, even though top Republicans seemingly have already decided it won't pass.
While there are some Republicans, we've got 74 in the House out of 99, clearly saying it's a non-starter. We don't know that we have enough saying that.
TFA Executive Director John Harris did point out a few Republicans by name who say they support some small changes.
Lieutenant Governor McNally says he likes them. He supports the red flag law. I've not seen him back off of that. I have the Senate caucus leader saying we can't pass it if we call it a red flag law, so we've got to rebrand it. That gives me pause, okay? We have House leaders like Jeremy Faison and making statements about supporting some form of gun control.
Democrats can argue until they're metaphorically blue in the face, and they have.
Just continue with your thoughts and prayer. You know, that's about the same value that coming down here to check a box will do.
In the politically charged environment that we're in a lot of cases, you know, even if it's a good idea, those good ideas will be brushed to the side.
We're under a constant barrage of attacks, so we find ourselves playing defense a lot.
But at the crux of it, Republicans control virtually every piece of the state. So whatever happens or does not happen is on their shoulders.
It's never been this bad. And I really attribute it to being drunk with power.
Is there a chance some gun control passes? Of course, especially if Lieutenant Governor McNally really does help in the Senate.
I support the governor, and I think his proposal was on target.
But with the lack of help in the House, it seems almost doomed to fail. In Nashville, Chris O'Brien.
We also had an opportunity to talk to Knox County State Representative Jason Zachary about where the focus is and where it isn't for the special session.
If you look at the governor's call, there's I believe it's the 12th point within that call that lays out a very tight section related to an orders of protection, quote unquote, red flag law. Specific to the language the governor brought in April. It would allow only for that. It's so specific, it would allow only for that. But it's important for viewers to know that the governor did not make that the red flag or the ERPO proposal. He did not make that part of his legislative agenda. If you look at the 7 points in the legislation he's going to bring and push, that was not included in that.
Zachary also offered up the bills that he'll be bringing forward during the special session.
One is specifically related to juvenile mental health information. Right now, there's a gap in the system where if the juvenile has been adjudicated mentally defective or under conservatorship or has been voluntarily committed, some of the things that as an adult would keep you from possessing a weapon or buying a weapon, Right now, the way the system is, there's a firewall there, and when a juvenile turns 18, their record is basically cleared and they can buy a weapon. So after working with TBI, working with the AG, some outside groups, we crafted legislation that would push that information forward to allow the TICS system, our reporting, our system that we do our background checks through for weapons. It would allow that information to be pushed forward, so that way, if a juvenile that has mental health issues, mental health illness, when they turn 18, they would not be able to buy a weapon. So I've got that broad support. Will address some of the concerns within the community related to that. And then secondly, I'll be carrying a piece of legislation referred to as duty to report. And right now, if a healthcare practitioner, medical practitioner is with a patient and the patient makes a specific threat of violence, the healthcare practitioner is required to report that. The concern has been there is not a requirement in there for general reporting, meaning if that it's just they're treating someone and it's not they make a threat, but it's not a specific threat. Technically, they don't have to report that, and so we'll take a step to address that.
On the Democratic side of the aisle, State Representative Gloria Johnson predicts little significant change coming from the extra time coming in August at the Capitol.
This is being controlled by the NRA and the Tennessee Firearms Association. And instead of really addressing gun violence head on, they're talking about increasing penalties and things for juveniles. This is not what we're talking about when we're talking about gun violence and these shootings. We need to talk about seriously providing mental health counseling in our schools and for our youth and for adults as well, and increasing our ability to serve those folks. We have policies. We can write policy to keep the guns out of the hands of dangerous people, and they are ignoring that problem. And it's a bait and switch where they're trying to get in their old agenda that they didn't get through during regular session.
Now we want to bring in our panel of pundits. Let me reintroduce them to you. George Corda is our political analyst, Courtney Piper, our political contributor, and Craig Griffith, our healthcare analyst. They're all here to respond to this. Now, we just heard from Chris O'Brien about kind of the overview of what may or may not be happening. Doesn't sound like any type of red flag law is going to get passed. Doesn't really sound like it's even going to get discussed, but maybe some laws that punish felons could get through. So your first take on, after all the talk about guns, that's not even really one of the topics, according to the governor's 7-point proclamation. We'll start with Craig.
Well, it was clear the governor, after the Covenant School shooting, was trying to push for a order extreme protection law. He worked through the summer with various groups of legislatures, citizens, but it's clear he doesn't have the votes. He's a smart man. He can count. He knows he doesn't have the votes for any sort of red flag law or extreme order protection. So I don't think that's what you're going to see coming out of this special legislative session. I think they are taking up some issues related to mental health that are important, that could use improvement in the state. And I hope between now and then we don't have another mass shooting that will turn out to be something that could have been prevented by stronger common sense gun regulation in the state.
If we don't pass a red flag law or something like it, reword it, really well define something, but we do pass several of the things that he listed in his proclamation centered around mental health. Is that still a move forward, Courtney?
It's a move forward for mental health, but I'm really confused about this special session because how it was billed to all Tennesseans as we were going to talk about gun safety laws, and in particular a red flag law, but more specifically, how do we keep guns out of the hands of people that are going to use them to harm or kill other people? And that is what is substantially lacking from this latest release that came out of the governor's office. We know that the vast majority of Tennesseans, Republicans and Democrats, want to see common sense gun safety laws. And the fact that the state legislature is coming together and they will not be discussing this is really doing a disservice to the public. And it remains to be seen what will happen when our General Assembly does not act in favor of what is popular with the public.
And George, I'm curious because Gloria Johnson says, and it's her opinion. She says that the conversation is being controlled by the NRA, but Representative Jason Zachary, is saying that his constituents are saying, "Hey, we don't want that." So, are both of them correct?
Well, you always have to in politics. You always have to have a boogeyman, and the NRA is the left's boogeyman. And the issue about common sense gun regulations, well, it depends on your definition of common sense, because one person's definition is different from another. And the whole issue of red flag laws comes down to around constitutionality. There are about 1.2 million households in Tennessee in which there are guns, in which the owners own guns. 1.2 million. And the issues of red flag laws become, when do you get to say, I think this person might be a danger? Now, are there people out there who are dangerous? Yes, there are. But consider that on two things. One, about the popularity of red flag law. When you ask somebody, do you think there ought to be a red flag law that'll keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them? You're going to get an overwhelmingly positive response. Just like in former years here in Knox County, every politician was genuflecting during election time at the altar of metro government. You got asked about it, they got asked about it. Every single time they spoke. You don't hear about it anymore. Why? Even though polls were taken asking the question, do you think we should have one government in Knox County, it'd get high support. Then when people started learning the specifics about it, it collapsed. And metro government always went down in flames. So you have to look beyond the curtain. And the issue of how do you identify somebody who has a mental health problem or somebody who is just being accused for the sake of being accused? We've talked about orders of protection. Orders of protection are you can't go near this person because there is a possibility of trouble. But the government doesn't come and take your car away, so you can't drive to where they live. So the constitutional questions around here are real and they exist. And if this thing had the popularity that we're talking about, Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally wouldn't have said there's no chance it's going to pass. He'd be talking about how they're going to make it a strong law. And so would all the other legislators. It's not going anywhere.
I find it interesting that a lot of the surveys after the school shooting in Nashville, one interesting one in particular had a subtab of homes with guns. And the homes with guns were more strongly in support of red flag laws, background checks, safe storage than either the Republican or the Democratic tab. So I think that, yes, there are probably millions of people, millions of homes in Tennessee that have guns. And some of those people are the strongest advocates of common sense gun safety. So, and Randy McNally is still for a red flag law. He just can't get it through his caucus.
Now, let me just jump into the middle of this. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember because it's now been months, right? When the police chief came out in the shooting at the Covenant School, we'll talk about that specifically, which is really what started all this. He mentioned that the shooter, Aubrey Hale, I'm trying to remember her name right, that the shooter had been seeing a doctor, and then we also heard the parents didn't want the shooter to have guns, but yet no one, and I could be wrong here, if she was in contact with a doctor, if she was seeing a doctor, they didn't say anything to police. I mean, police still wouldn't have that on the radar. Just because someone's seeing a doctor, or even for mental health, doesn't mean the police know who that person is. How do we just get that part over? You know, what do we have to do to make sure that the message is getting to the law enforcement?
Well, a red flag law, because even if law enforcement had this information, they couldn't stop the shooter from purchasing a gun. She purchased those guns legally. So this is an instance where a red flag law would help. And Again, because of the overwhelming public support in the state of Tennessee, especially among homes with guns, especially because this is bipartisan, it is worthy of discussion in the Tennessee General Assembly.
Don, the shooter in Nashville was a transgender person. It was a male who's transitioning to female. So if that person had been told, we are going to limit you and restrict you, and that individual said, I'm being discriminated against because I am a transgender. How many people in this country do you think who are supportive of transgender rights would rush to say, wait a minute, are you targeting this person because they're transgender? It's not as simple as we think this person might be a problem, therefore we must act. Now,
then don't oversimplify it, George, to try and make a point.
Well,
because you know
Courtney,
that's not
exactly
how due process works.
Here. We think this person could be a problem, therefore we should take their
No, that's not how due process works. That's not how an order of protection works. That's not how restraining orders work.
Well, I explained about orders of protection. You're not. You can tell somebody you can't go near this person, but you don't take their car away.
But you don't go to the police and say, hey, this person is dangerous. Can you write up an order of protection? There's like an actual legal process that you have to follow to prove that you maintained,
it would be passing, and we would be talking about what will happen when the red flag law passes.
What I'm saying is don't oversimplify this to make your point.
Well, both of you guys are oversimplifying.
We're not even going to talk about it.
You slap the term common sense on it, and you figure that takes care of it, and it doesn't.
Well, that is definitely going to be something that may or may not, and it seems like it's not going to be on the table for debate. Real quickly to wrap up this segment, yes or no? Do we pass? Will people get together to pass some real mental health related legislation that could help in this process, even for more money, for more mental health folks in the school to talk to our students? Will that get through during the special session?
Well, it could possibly do it. But one of the people some of the legislators that I've talked to have said this is nothing that couldn't be taken up in the regular session of the legislature. Mm-hmm. So they may defer any action in the special session to the regular session when they can consider that with the budget.
That is a likely scenario.
They're going to have to pass something because they don't want to completely embarrass the governor. And they don't want to completely look like they haven't done anything. So something will pass. But again, this is going to wind up getting, I don't know what you want to say, watered down or carefully constructed. Because particularly when you talk about schools, we're living in an age where if a child draws a picture of war scene, this has happened. They get suspended from school. They bite a Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun and they get suspended from school.
Where has that happened, George?
And as we have covered those stories, and both those things have happened. I know, and it seems extreme.
In Tennessee,
in both cases,
in Tennessee,
I'm not saying it happened. I'm not saying it happened in Tennessee, but those are both stories that happen in kids.
Well, we're talking about Tennessee and the Tennessee General Assembly.
When school officials are afraid, some kid says to another kid, "You do that again, I'm going to kill you." So now does it become just something kids say to each other, or are school officials going to be afraid, gee, if we don't report this kid and if we don't put him into some sort of mental health evaluation, we're going to be in trouble?
All right, we're going to wrap it up with that because we need to take a break, get to some other topics. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. The state of Tennessee is being sued by a group of civil rights organizations accusing the state of diluting the power of voters in Memphis and Nashville, voters of color in those areas. Back in 2022, the state legislature, redrew congressional districts impacting the state Senate and the House districts, as well as U.S. congressional seats. We actually have one more seat than we had before that. This lawsuit moving forward, how does it play out in court? Do anyone want to predict how this ends? George, we'll start with you.
Well, I think it's a complicated issue because we're a society that's constantly talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then we're talking about voting. We're talking about putting people in districts of specific colors. And it becomes an argument. Do you do this because you expect everybody who is of that color to vote exclusively along color lines? And diversity, equity, and inclusion is supposed to be moving away from doing that, whether it's white, black, whatever. And a few years ago, there was a Knoxville mayor who made an endorsement of a council member who was black, saying the person could better represent the district because of the ethnicity and color. So it suggests the argument that, well, if that's the case, then a white representative is better able to represent a white district. If you say that, you're a racist.
Well,
this is a very confusing issue, and gerrymandering, as it's called, is always despised by the other side. Tennessee, for 100 years, was controlled by Democrats who drew Democrat favorable districts, and they had to lose in those districts for Republicans to be able to draw the districts, and now they're aghast and appalled.
Let's let someone else weigh in on this. It is illegal to draw maps along racial lines, but it's not illegal to draw them along political lines. But what's really going on here? Courtney or Craig?
Well, two wrongs don't make a right. Just because you've been gerrymandering for 100 years doesn't mean you should go ahead and gerrymander for the next 100 years. But I think what everyone is complaining about is Davidson County, Nashville. For years, that was one congressional seat. It was very homogenous, like Steve Cohen's seat over in Shelby County in Memphis. But they came along and they divided that district up into 3 different congressional districts. And if you look at the demographics of it, it's sort of divided up the predominantly African-American communities in Nashville into 3 different districts. And if you look at the Alabama decision that the Supreme Court came down with, it's diluting of power. So it's whether it's going to prevail or not is a difficult shot, because the Supreme Court is not wanting to do redistricting. They want the states to take care of it. But when you come up with a case like this that's such obvious gerrymandering, it's very difficult not to pay attention to it.
And quickly, Courtney, so that we can...
Gerrymandering has been going on for a very long time. The problem is when it gets too extreme and you're disenfranchising whole blocks of voters, someone's going to call you on it, and then a judge gets to decide if you've gone too far. And this is exactly where we are with this case.
All right. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so we need to take a break, come back. One more topic on Tennessee. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Knox County School Board put together a special education task force earlier in the year. Last week, that task force, which Courtney was part of, presented its recommendations, summing up in a way, establish new code of conduct for special education employees and leadership, hire an inclusion expert, conduct long-term reviews of the district's special education department, look at the legal matters, and there's more to it than that. We'll start right here. How was this received, Courtney, and do you anticipate major changes, and do you anticipate them soon?
Our recommendations were well received. As a matter of fact, in the August board meeting, the school board vice chair said that she would be bringing a resolution to the board in September to recommend that we adopt all of our recommendations. Our recommendations were based on a conclusion that a cultural problem exists within Knox County Schools Special Education Department that originated and perpetuated primarily outside of the local school level. So we spent a lot of time, 3 months, putting together these recommendations. We looked at a lot of data, and ultimately we want to reimagine special education in Knox County so that success for every student is accessible to kids with special needs.
I know, George and Craig, you might not be experts on that, but your thoughts?
Well, I just want to salute Courtney for tackling an issue that affects her family and hundreds of other families in Knox County, bringing it to the attention of the board, getting some action from the board, doing her task force, and coming up with some recommendations, whether they'll be adopted or not. This is a classic way of a citizen working through the system to achieve better results for her children and other children in the system. So we'll have to see if any of these recommendations are adapted and if it helps the group of people that need the help.
How are special needs being defined here, please?
What do you mean, George?
Well, there are recommendations for special needs.
The special education department. There are special education students have something called IEPs, or individual education plans, and Knox County keeps track of all of those children.
Okay, well, I'm not versed enough in this to render an opinion on the recommendations, but I don't think talking about things is ever bad. It's when people start saying, well, you can't talk about that without being something bad, evil, that it cuts off debate. So I think the fact that there are recommendations out there for people to look at, which I need to do, obviously, is a good thing.
Right. Well, with that, we're out of time. We want to thank all of you for being with us, and we want to thank you at home for watching Tennessee This Week, and we'll be back next week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Next Star Broadcasting.